when the Telangana state was going to be formed in 2014, I had written a few years ago a book on Telangana. So that was sold out in the market because everybody wanted to know what was happening actually in Hyderabad.
Welcome to New Life AG podcast. The last few podcasts we've been focusing on the Excel series, and we've termed it that because we're talking about how we can excel in the area and in the place where God has placed us. And for that, we've been having some special people, our very own people who have excelled in their respective fields. And today it's such an honor and privilege to have you with us, Dr. Uma. Thank you so much for joining us, and we believe that this time will be a blessing. We're going to talk about your journey. You know, you are our care pastors, both you and Dr. Joseph. But apart from being our care pastors, you have also excelled in the field of education. 2 doctorates, and God has blessed you in that area. So give us a little bit about your journey, how you began, and a little bit about the beginning.
Sure, Suraj. Thank you first of all for giving me this opportunity. And when I just think of my journey from childhood, it seems a real long journey now, more than so many years I think ago. And you know, right from when I was a child, I just think that, you know, my childhood was so happy, and we were four siblings with a doting father and a loving mother. So the childhood was so good, and you know, I was, as far as academics was concerned, it was farthest from my mind when I was a little kid, and just enjoyed life, and I was not really so interested also in academics. And but whenever anybody would ask me, what would you want to be when you would grow up, I would immediately jump up and say, I'm going to be a teacher. So my mom would laugh because she was a trained teacher, and she said it's not so easy to be a teacher. But then, you know, as maybe I was still quite young, around 10 or 11 years old, there were a lot of things that happened in my life that really gave me a new perspective in life. And one of the things is that, you know, I just asked Jesus to come into my heart when I was a little kid in a Sunday school. And that's when I really thought that I have to be serious about certain things in life, serious about God, also serious about, you know, your responsibility towards your parents, and also as far as academics is concerned. And then I just began to realize that once I started, you know, really being serious, I was doing good. I was scoring good marks. And then when I actually tasted success, I really wanted more and more of it. And so I started doing very well in my studies. And then I thought, okay, if I could just put in some more hard work, I could get even more greater success. So that's how it went on. I would really say that, you know, the higher education, as far as academics is concerned, was really good compared to even my school days, because that's when I was more focused as far as academics is concerned. And, you know, by the time I came to college, I was so interested in my academics that I was topping the class. I was doing so good. By the time I came to undergraduation, I had such a desire. I remember during exams I would not sleep at all, just work so hard, because I felt that I should just keep doing something better and better. That was the kind of intensity that I had. And I think so, as far as my academics is concerned, when I think of my journey, from undergraduation, when I finished, I went on. So if you look at my studies, that is academics and my career, I think I owe it a lot to St. Francis, because I studied throughout in St. Francis. I was just away from my college for just 3 years, and then I came back as a teacher. So that's the kind of association I have as far as my college is concerned.
So you picked up a subject or a area that is not very popular, history,
yes,
for your higher education. Not something all your peers would have picked up. Any regrets that you picked that up, or what do you feel?
Yeah, not at all. Like you asked such a good question, Suraj, because definitely when you look at the, if I can use that word, academic market, history is a subject nobody would ever think of
obviously,
taking.
yeah.
Yes. So all the more because I did well in academics, they thought I should not take history,
Yes.
because they said that anyone who does well should do either maths or they should go in for engineering or for
Science,
medicine.
yeah.
Yeah. So when I went and gave my application, even the person at the counter told me, look, you're doing a mistake.
Are you sure?
Why? Yeah, are you sure? So they even told me they'll give me 1 month's time, to change
think
my mind,
about
and
it.
if I want, I can still go in for sciences. But one of the things that really drew me to this subject was, and I really want to say that, history is a part of social studies in school, and social studies is a subject that's so filled with so many things that the students want to just leave that subject the first time they get a choice, because in school they don't have a choice. So when they come to college, they want to just leave that. But the way the past is projected is done in such a difficult manner for them that they just want to chuck it the first go.
Yeah.
So, but I really began to understand that, the more I read about history, the more I was interested. And I really felt that we can understand the present also better in the light of the past. I'm sure we'll, as I grew up, that's one thing that I really understood. Even your planning for the future, I just remember when the Telangana state was going to be formed in 2014, I had written a few years ago a book on Telangana. So that was sold out in the market because everybody wanted to know what was happening actually in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Nobody ever bothered till this whole, agitation came up for. So what I really felt was that we didn't have a right perspective of studying history. And that's the reason why probably people didn't like it. And then when I joined history, if somebody were to ask me what next, I didn't even know anything. I didn't even know what prospects were there, but I just loved the subject. And I really want to thank my parents because, I know how much of pressure sometimes parents put on their kids to, take certain subjects.
Yes.
But both of them, they just agreed, for me to do this. And so I just moved on. I took that subject. I enjoyed studying that subject, and I had it throughout. I did my research in that. And then even when I kept studying, I didn't even realize that, that subject was going to help me in any way. I didn't even think of a job. I didn't think of a career. I didn't think of any honors that I would get. But along the way, it came for me.
Yeah.
You just can't imagine the way. For example, when I finished my research in Hyderabad history, there was a group that came from Australia, and they were looking for a consultant, to know about the history of Hyderabad. And so I don't think when I really wanted to study history, I thought that, I would be called by groups like this to be called an honorary consultant for this subject. No, never. But I think what I realized is that you just follow your passion that you have, and what happens when you do that is that you enjoy doing
enjoy
that.
the process, yeah.
And then I really was thinking, I'm really getting paid for doing something I love to do.
Yeah.
So that's the joy that I had. So not even a day I regret, because many of them say, what jobs can you get, what career can you pursue in this subject. But I think by the time I was pursuing my MPhil, I got this job. There was a job advertisement from my college. I went, I attended the interview, so I never had a problem finding a job. I didn't have a problem because our jobs have to be approved by the government for those of us who are drawing UGC scale. So even that was done so miraculously. So I don't think at any stage I had a problem because I chose history.
Wow.
So I'm really thankful to
You're
God.
obviously very passionate about the
Yes.
subject you're talking about it, and you were able to pursue your passion. But like everybody else, I'm sure you have faced some obstacles along the way. Like for instance, I can imagine you had to do some of your studies after you got married. Now that's not easy. So how did you face those challenges and those obstacles?
I think to continue your career in academics especially, you need to do a lot of research. That's one thing I really understood. And I also understood that being a teacher, you have to unlearn a lot of things. You not only learn, you are continuously learning, you never stop learning, and then you also have to unlearn, otherwise you cannot be a good teacher. That's what I realized as I entered into that profession. You know, some of them would come and tell me, you're already teaching for 10 years, I don't think you even have to prepare for a class. But then I realized that it's so different, because you know, every batch is different and you have to look at the students so differently. And if you really have a passion for the subject, you realize there's so many trends that are there which you have to keep updating yourself. And so one of the things, like I told you, research is a part of our whole academic life. And you know, by the time I completed my MPhil and I got this job, so job takes away a lot of your time.
True.
So you're not able to, you know, concentrate so much on research as you did earlier. And for a girl, when by the time she's 23, the parents are all looking to find a you know, suitable person. So marriage is very much on their mind at that time. So of course, I also got married a year later, and then we had 2 kids. I thought that was the joy of my life. I was so happily married with 2 kids, and I thought I was doing very good, and I had a good job in hand, and I was doing this. So I thought that was it. But then you know, then I realized that, you know, you have to, if you are going to move on in life, you need to keep holding on to research, pursuing research, otherwise it's not possible. And so that was in the back of my mind, but I never really brought it, you know, and started to focus on it, because I was so caught up with my family and, you know, with my kids. It was then that one evening, you know, my husband told me, I really want to talk to you. I thought, what is this? Suddenly he's so serious. And then he asked me, what happened to your PhD? Because I had registered for my PhD, but I had just pushed it to the back burner. And then he took me actually to the university. Our university is in Gachibowli Central University. So we went there and we had a chat with the professor, and then he said that, you know, you have to come back again and just have the interview like everybody else, come back again and face the interview. So I went through all those things, and I can never forget the remark that the professor made when I went there and sat in that interview board, because you know, I was doing well. I was, like I told you, in MA and MPhil. So everybody thought that I would be the first to finish my PhD. But already I was, you know, 6 years behind. So when she introduced me to the rest of the panel who were going to interview me, she said, here is the candidate who topped MA but strayed into marriage. So but then of course they selected me, and that's how I pursued. So I really know that it is a challenge when you have your kids, you have your family, but I think that everyone in the family, especially your spouse, if they are encouraging you, like in my case, my husband really encouraged me so much. We shared so many things together. And of course, we had the responsibility. We had a cell group too at that time.
That's another added responsibility.
So we had a lot of people. It was not just one evening that we met. We would get a lot of calls. We would get a lot of you know, times when we had to meet them. So there is, I think one of the things that I really understood is how do you prioritize your time. You need to really learn that, otherwise you cannot. So those were the challenges. You think of time, you know, the time for your kids and I think, but if you could really put them in proper perspective, then you can really achieve your goal.
Yeah, one of the achievements that, I mean, I think it's phenomenal is you were awarded Telangana Best Teacher in Telangana, you know, and your passion for teaching is something that stands out. What drives you every day to be passionate about this?
Like I already told you, one is of course the love for my subject, because I just love speaking about it, and sometimes I think that I should really stop, because when I start I can't really stop talking about it. But I think another thing is my students, you know, I just love the students that I have, so many batches of students, and the way they have responded. And I understood that along the way in your career, when you're talking in terms of teaching, nothing really comes to you on a platter. You have to really work hard towards that. So you had to, like I told you, we have to unlearn a lot of things. think of innovative things that you could do. So I did a lot of things which really not only brought joy to me, but to the students too. Our subject was such, so we could go on a lot of field trips. We took the students all over India, whether it was Delhi or whether it was to any other place. So the students, when they meet you after 10 years, they remember those more than Sometimes one thing that I learned really, Suraj, is that sometimes the teacher thinks that a great lecture that you give in the class makes you a great teacher, but I really understood that it's the other way around. What the student has learned that particular day, it could be something that I have said, or some a video I've shown them, or done something else which has actually had a greater impact on them than me just going there and giving an excellent lecture and coming back. So really the nuances of teaching and learning, I really learnt over a period of time, and once I really acquired that, and I really began to enjoy doing that in the classes. So I didn't find that as a challenge. It was a joy doing it.
So you're basically having fun at what you're doing, your favorite subject, your favorite profession, and you've excelled wherever God has placed you. This is the Excel series. We're talking about that. And you've written books, you've written about 5 books, you've done about 30 research papers, you've lectured abroad, you've been guest lecturers, you've done it all, and you have shown for the Lord, literally shown for Him where you're placed. If a young aspirant, like maybe a young man or a lady, were to ask you, give us a few tips on how we can excel where God has placed us, what would your response to that be?
I would say that, though it sounds like a cliche, there's no really substitute to hard work. Your passion alone will not get you anywhere. You need to really work very hard on it. Because like I told you that, I may love my subject, but how do I get everyone to love that subject? How do I get, sometimes people would even ask, like, how many of them are choosing history as an option today?
Your students,
yeah, your own students, people outside would ask me, do you have actually students still learning history? So you have to really work on it, create that interest in them, prepare well for your classes to make it as interesting as possible, create that curiosity in them. So I have worked hard towards all those things, so that they would. So there's no substitute for hard work, I said, definitely. And along with that, there are many other things that really helped me in my life. Another thing is, of course, God. I was, I really believe that God plays an important role in your life. Dependence on Him, not just on your own ability He has given. There is one particular, Bible verse which really encouraged me. It says, "Work as if for God and not for men."
Yes.
Because sometimes, there is no job where there is no disappointment, where there is no discouragement, and where there are challenges. You can't keep hopping from different jobs thinking that it'll be smooth. So every job has its challenges and difficulties. But if you think that you're doing it for God, that really helped me. That one thing that I can really say that helped me, that I need to really excel, because it's not just about somebody here on earth. There's somebody up there also who's keeping a record of what you are doing. I think there's a lot of diligence that you need in your work. And your priorities. You need to know what your priorities are. Whatever you're doing, you need to really know how much time you're giving to each one of them, because all of us have different aspects of our life, and we need to give time for all of them. If we could do that, I think we can really be successful in life.
So the Indian education system, I'm not a big fan of, and I think if the system was better, I would have probably pursued a little more higher education. What is your take on this?
Suraj, is there an excuse for not pursuing your education?
No.
Okay, anyway, I'm not really...
The system has faced a lot of flack recently, so I think it's a general opinion, so please let us know what you think.
That's true. Yeah, I feel that there are a lot of negatives as far as the system is concerned. I think we have to give in to a lot of challenges that we face even in our Indian system. One of the things, of course, is the number of students that are there, because when we are talking about teacher-student ratio also, the ratio is so high, compared to the system that is there outside. You know that system well. Even when I went abroad to Shenandoah University, I saw that it was so different there, because the number of students are less. You had just about 5 or 6 students sitting in that class, and then I come back here, I have minimum 60 students that are sitting in your class. So it's quite difficult. You can't go to a one-to-one basis, and it's also very knowledge based still, the system. But the only thing that I want to say is that, though the system is like that, we cannot just, complain about it and leave it with that. As a teacher, what I learned over the years is that even within the system, there are many things that we could do. I was fortunate that our college is an autonomous college, so we have the choice to bring about, more freedom to, change a little bit of our curriculum. So I introduced some of the subjects which would really attract the students. I realized that one of the things the students, the reasons why they pursue this subject is they're all civil service oriented. They want to become IAS officers. So, I studied the patterns of the IAS system, their system of education and their examination, and I introduced that in our curriculum. So that was a great attraction for them, because, so you're somewhere, along that path you have started to travel. Another subject that really attracted them was, I realized history is so closely related to tourism. So I introduced tourism as a subject as early as 2001, and today, the university and others, they applauded that, and they have introduced that in their curriculum. So I think we can make a lot of innovations, we can bring about a lot of innovations, and some of the new trends that are there in the education system. Like today we have a lot of electives that students can take. Earlier a student of science did only the science subjects, but today we give them the option of choosing one subject from commerce or arts. When I introduced tourism from my side, there was a student from commerce who chose that paper, and it was just one elective of 30 hours, but she chose her career in tourism after that. She's today an entrepreneur and she's conducting tours. So education system is changing. Like earlier we just did it for the sake of a degree, and then we did a job which didn't match anything that we did with our studies. But today it's changing a lot. The reason also is that we have a lot of tie-up with the industry now, the academia industry collaborations that are happening. So many times the industry tells us, these are the things that we are looking for in your students. So we are also trying to make our subjects suitable to both the industry as well as the society when the student comes out. So I think that I see a lot of change, and I am positive that the change would be for the better of the students.
Okay, listening to you, I'm almost thinking I wish I had you as my teacher, so I would have
I take that as a great compliment.
I would have pursued a little more of and be passionate about what I learned, because we just considered books to be we were just doing it for the sake of doing it, but I just loved your passion, and I believe that today has been a blessing. Thank you for joining us. And we will have you again in the future, because you're obviously full of knowledge, and your experience has been a blessing to us. And thank you for sharing your heart. And I believe that this will be a blessing for you, and especially those of you who are looking to pursue education as your future. It will be a blessing for you and anybody who wants to excel where God has placed you. I pray that this podcast will be a blessing to you. Thank you so much, and God bless you.